Wednesday is a huge World Pool fixture as the Qatar Goodwood Festival turns attention to day two. You've got the Sussex Stakes as the Group 1 centrepiece, but the very first race of the day is a good race in itself. It's for the three-year-olds. It's run over 2,400 metres. Some nice horses have won this down the years, and one or two certainly in the lineup this year could be ahead of their mark. We shall see. That's your course map. Let's have a look at the runners for the 2024 running of it. Voyage is there, Lord of Love, interesting runner. Goodwood Odyssey, appropriately named winner it would be. Gallantly for Aidan O'Brien. Midnight Storm, we'll be talking about Crown of India, Clockmaker, and down to Open Secret. Nothing secretive about the team that I've got alongside. They were here yesterday and they're here again. John Blance and Graham Cunningham welcoming along. Graham, Lord of Love beating Goodwood Odyssey at Newmarket just a couple of weeks ago. Key form going into this. Yeah,
key galloping clue, and headgear is a key angle. That horse on the left with the noseband, largely yellow colours, Goodwood Odyssey, is talented, but he's quirky. Watch the way he hangs in the closing stages, and he's got headgear blinkers for the first time on Wednesday. Have a look on the far side at this progressive horse, Lord of Love. Headgear's been key for him, and have a look at him. He doesn't wear those cheap pieces just to keep his head warm. He is edging towards the right. He takes the runner-up across, and he's just doing enough. Of the pair, I definitely prefer Lord of Love. I think he's on the upgrade. Blinkers might help Goodwood Odyssey, but I didn't really care for his attitude last time. OK,
a very well-bred horse. He's open to more, we shall see, but Graham makes good points about his attitude. Let's have a look at Midnight Storm, winner last time. I don't know how much the form's worth. John alongside, a couple of these have been beaten since, but I quite like this fella.
Well, in black and white, the form's not worth a huge amount, but if you actually look at the race, he was very slowly away. He had to work to get into a position, so he's spent a few petrol tickets, as the Australians would say, in the early part of the race, and he's done well to stick around in the way that he has here, and he has got some pretty solid handicap form elsewhere, and he's got a good draw here, gate one. It's not absolutely vital, but I would still prefer a lower draw, certainly for a horse like him who likes to naturally go forward, so Midnight Storm's in the numbers for me.
Some good horses. Potentially, Graham, a few of these are going to be ahead of their mark. Who is in your 1, 2, 3, 4? OK,
give me a minute here because I'm going away largely from the videos we've seen. On top, I'm going for a horse called Subsequent. He's been progressing really well in steadily run races. Look out when he gets in a well-run race. So I've got him on top. He's a progressive horse. He'll be well suited by the demands of this race. 5, Attila the Honey, key tactical filly in this race because she's a go-forward filly and she's thriving. She bolted up at Newbury and she ran really well at Ascot last Friday over 2 miles. Just run down late on. She'll go forward and run well. 7, French Duke, went into my notebook with a really bold performance at Royal Ascot. He made a big move on the outside in the heat of the battle. He's got a hood for the first time. He can improve. And 2, Lord of Love, for the reasons outlined already. 3, 5, 7, 2 for race 1 on day 2.
John.
Yeah, I like Lord of Love on top. What we didn't see in that Newmarket race was it was quite a slowly run race and he's passed the vast majority of them to win, so it was a good effort against the clock, but he has got the gate speed to get into a more prominent position here from a good draw, so I like Lord of Love. Midnight Storm as well for the reasons given. Voyage is a very interesting horse, of course, unseated rider in the Derby, and then a bit of a blowout at Ascot, but this is a much more realistic assignment for him in there for 3rd. And French Duke, Graham's outlined the reasons for that one in there for 4th. So 2, 8, 1 and 7 for me.
I'm with Graham. I'm going to be going for Subsequent, son of the late, great Galileo, to follow up that Byberry Cup success at Salisbury last time and win race 1. Number 3 for me in the first at Goodwood. Best of luck, whatever you're going for. Race 2 at Goodwood on Wednesday, Big World Pool Day, is the first pattern race. It's a Group 3 Oak Tree Stakes, 1,400 metres, and it's run for the fillies. It's a good race. It's got an international feel this year. Briege heads them under Jason Hart. You've got Amira travelling over from Germany, Sea of Thieves for France, more locally, Vetiver from Kingsclear. That's not too far away. Pretty Crystal, Fair Angelica, Jabara. Kathmandu's been running at a good level. Stop the Cavalry, Ziggy's Dream. John, let's have a look at some World Pool form. And that was Briege's success at Epsom on Derby Day.
Yep, she's got a 3-figure official rating, which is pretty key in this race if you go back the last 10 years. And she travelled beautifully here at Epsom. It was a slightly messy conclusion to that Princess Elizabeth Stakes. 1 or 2 hard luck stories in behind. But she's 3rd in this race last year as well. These slightly quirky tracks with interesting topography seem to hold no fears for her whatsoever. She's got a penalty which is slightly problematic. Gate 9, not absolutely ideal, but I think she's going to be there or thereabouts.
Penalty's the concern for me. She couldn't quite win it last year. £3 penalty. Dead consistent, really likeable. High draw on the penalty are a bit off-putting for mine.
Let's have a look at Fair Angelica. She's trained, as we mentioned yesterday, by a man who was no stranger to success in the saddle at Goodwood, Richard Hughes. He'd love a winner or two as well as a trainer. He's already had success as a trainer. Fair Angelica, Graham, she certainly knows how to win races.
5 from 7. This was just a middling handicap from a mark of 84, but she led and she romped. Since then, she's had a disappointment at Royal Ascot in the Sandringham and a decisive win with Ryan Moore aboard for the first time in a listed race at Deauville. It's an oddity that horses who won the last race tend not to do very well in this Old Tree Stakes, but I'm not going to hold that against this filly. I think she's highly likely to run a good race.
Let's have a look at Jabara. This is as good a form as you're going to be bringing into this race, isn't it, John?
Yeah, this is the Falmouth Stakes, Group 1 level, of course, as she's down in class here. I remember liking this horse for the Albany Stakes at Ascot last year, that they sent out the local constabulary for her, unfortunately. But she's gone very well subsequently. A couple of good runs at 7 furlongs at listed level. I was there at Carlisle 2 starts ago and she won. This is a very good level for her, I think. Gate 10, again, a little bit problematic. Wide-drawn horses have won this race. Her class might just be enough to pull her through here. I've got her on top. She's certainly a filly going places.
Surely run well. She's down from Group 1 to Group 3 and she's consistent and not particularly complicated in run style.
I agree. I think she's having just a really good season as well. This could be a group race success for her. Earlier in the season, there was group race success for Pretty Crystal. We're going to have a look at Kathmandu, Graham, also in the same race. This was the nail win at the Craven meeting.
Kathmandu has gone forward since. Pretty Crystal hasn't. She's going to have to thrive for the headgear. Have a look at Kathmandu on the outside. After this good performance, she ran a belter, 66 to 1 second in the French Guineas. That form hasn't worked out that well. And she ran okay in the Jean Prat Group 1 last time. Fast ground is perhaps a new concern if it stays dry, which I think it will for Kathmandu. Pretty Crystal hasn't really progressed as expected, John.
No, she hasn't, but I think this trip will be ideal for her. She's got headgear on for the first time as well. Kathmandu's got the tongue tie as well. She goes in my numbers, definitely. But Pretty Crystal, if she gets back to something like her best, would have a chance. Kathmandu definitely has.
Well, at the early stage betting, it would have it fairly open. Jabara's going to be towards the top of the market, you would anticipate, Graham. I see it as quite open, do you?
I do, and I like one at a price here. It's not often you see a horse at 20 to 1, 16 to 1 and think that horse should be single figures. The big prices have gone for Stop the Cavalry now, but I think she's got plenty to recommend her. It was just a middling 0 to 85 handicap that she won at Chester first time, just a third run, but she won like a pretty smart filly, ridden with bags of confidence, looping, swooping, settling it neatly. She could have run in a handicap on day 1. Interesting that her connections are going for the Group 3 instead. 10, Stop the Cavalry, a live one at a price. 7, Jabara has solid form. 8, Kathmandu, and 6 for Angelica. But I'm hoping Stop the Cavalry is a live one here.
Yeah, OK. One for the Jonah Louis fans as well. John,
we cannot stop the Cavalry here on the Whirlpool. I instantly respect that now that Graham's found it, and I may regret leaving her out. But I'm going to go with Jabbar on top. As I say, 1 or 2 elements against her here, but I still think she'll go very well. Breege in there for second, Kathmandu for third, and I'm going to go to Pretty Crystal to hopefully improve for the application of the cheek pieces. But it's an open race. There are quite a few with a chance, as myself and Graham's selections show.
OK, I am going to go with Kathmandu to show what she's been doing in France, but back domestically to show the UK what she can do. That is race 2 at Goodwood on Wednesday. Working our way through the card now, and race 3 is the Molecombe Stakes, which is going to be rapid, and it's going to be a full-on stampede. This is your course map in front of the grandstand, 1,000 metres. 16 two-year-olds declared for this. There's going to be a ferocious pace, doubtless. Asterius heads them. Further down, you're going to go down to the likes of Francisco's Peace, Fuji Mountain, King's Call, Mr. Lightside, interesting, under Ross Orion. Rock and Roll Secret, The Man, Vanguard, ran a really good race at Newbury. Celandine, Uzdi Tui for Ryan Moore. They are horses at the early stages of their career. Some we know more about than others. Some have showed a reasonable level, Graham. How big a player is Asterius as we have a look at that Sandown win?
Enormous player. This horse is absolutely thriving. 380 grand, breeze up by Memas. Ran really well, 5th in the Norfolk Stakes at Royal Ascot, right next to Whistlejacket, who's come out and won the July Stakes. In this race, second from right of the leading pair, he tanked along through this race. First two come well clear. He gives every indication that he is a smart young sprinter. And John, the form he's shown already, I think is good enough to take him close, even without a bit more improvement.
Historically, definitely, and the draw is good as well. Gate 10, last 10 runnings of this race, 8, 6, 11, 7, 12, 6, 10, 3, 7 and 2. So you want a middle to high number near that rail. The winner of this race has often bagged that grandstand rail here. Yeah. Asterius could well do that.
Let's have a look at Celandine winning at Newmarket back at the end of June. She's since been to France. This form's quite good, John.
It certainly is. And Tom Marquand and Ed Walker teaming up, and went to Shanty after that on softish ground. It wasn't a bad effort, actually, in fairness. And I think back on faster ground here, if the rain stays away, she's going to have a pretty good chance. She's got a rating of 101, which is pretty good as far as historic ratings in this race are concerned. Gate 1, though, could be slightly problematic.
I agree with that. All the runs have been at 6 furlongs so far. I'm not too concerned about coming back to 5. I'm not crazy about the draw, but she's got the form in the book to run a solid race.
Let's have a look at a horse who's won from 1 so far. That's King's Call winning at winning earlier in the month. Over at Ayr. Already had a group race entry at this stage, so clearly quite well regarded, John. Yeah,
it was a 1-length victor here, but did make all in not a desperately fast race. So this is going to be a big step up as far as this race goes at Goodwood. Ayr's an undulating track, so it's shown the ability to handle that. But again, Gate 4 just makes me a little bit lukewarm.
And the form. Look, he's driven out pretty firmly to beat some just OK horses. His older half-brother, Thunder Moore, ran pretty well in this race. He might run pretty well. I'll be pretty surprised if he wins it.
Mick Appleby knows exactly what it takes to win this race. He won it with a rattling good one last year. Big Evs, he's got a couple of chances in here, one of them being Mr. Lightside, Graham.
Yeah, this is a horse who seems to be pleasing connections in a slightly surprising way. He was 18-1 for his first win at Redcar, and he was still 8-1 for this contest. I think it was a good run. He was more professional than on his previous win, and the horse he beats, giving £6 to Halasan. I think Halasan's a pretty good horse, so I've not put him in my numbers, this fella, but he's useful and on the up, John.
Yeah, he's got plenty of early speed. Gate 3, though, he'll have to be very quick to offset that. Obviously, Big Evs did it to an extent last year. He had 1 or 2 horses to get past to get that rail, but not too sure he was as quick as Big Evs, this lad.
Let's have a look at maybe some very important experience at the track. Soldier's Heart has got that, having won last time.
Yeah, these breeze-up horses go for plenty. 425 grand, son of Havana Grey. Second behind Al Qudra at Lingfield, a smart horse. This was a good performance, but John, the splits tell you he didn't have to run that fast. I think he only dipped below 11 seconds for 1 of the furlongs, so he's up in class.
Yeah, it might not be a particularly strong form, but he should get a pretty good run in transit from Gate 13, possibly trailing the pace and getting close to that rail.
1 of 2 by Havana Grey in this race, and Havana Grey himself won it in 2017, so they're bidding to follow in their father's footsteps. Who wins it?
Asterius is going to go really close here. Keen on this horse. Just think he's got the form, physique and profile to go extremely close. I'm not mad about the draw for Celandine, number 1, but number 15, but I think she can run well from stall 1. 13, Vingegaard is a useful horse, went close in the super sprint at Newbury. And 5, number 5 to round it out, but 1, 15, 13 and 5. Francisco's Piece could add a bit of value at a big price. He got a very messy run early in the Coventry Stakes. John?
Yeah, it's a really well-supported renewal of this race. I'm going to go with Vingegaard, though. We don't have any VT for him, unfortunately, but he has flashed really good pace in the past, and he gets stall 16, so he's the absolutely perfect draw. Speed figure of 91, which is only just behind Asterius, who is much respected as well. I think it's a pretty good cue, that 2 fast, well-drawn horses. Soldier's Heart in there for 3rd, with that Goodwood experience, might just help. Celandine, I'd have had further up if had been drawn slightly better, but Gate 1 isn't easy historically in this race.
OK, I'm going to go with Graham. It is number 1 for me. I think he's a class act. Asterius to win a big field running of the Molecombe Stakes. It comes up as race 3 on Wednesday. Race 4 this big World Pool Day on Wednesday is going to be the most hotly anticipated race of the week for so many people. It has been won by some incredible horses who've strutted their stuff in Sussex over the years, over the decades. It is the Sussex Stakes, Group 1, 1,600 metres, over a mile. And there you go. This is your course map. You name it. they've done it. Most recently, the best of them all for many, the best of all time, Frankel, winning it in successive years in 2011 and 2012. Let's have a look at the runners in 2024. No sons of Frankel in there. Factor Cheval comes across from France. Mao Jume is there. Sonny Liston, and then you come to the 3-year-olds, Henry Longfellow, Notable Speech, and Rosalien. They met last time at Royal Ascot. We'll talk about that race. We'll talk about the Guineas as well, which started the season. It was a World Pool Day, Graham, when Notable Speech beat Rosalien.
Yeah, this was a hard-run race, and that brought out the very best left of shot, Notable Speech. But in the yellow colours, centre field, Rosalien emerged from this classic with his reputation intact. What have you done for me lately? Rosalien has thrived since then, John. Notable Speech took a backward step at Royal Ascot. We can't discount Notable Speech, but Rosalien is going to be a really strong favourite for the race of the week.
Yeah, the Appleby horses weren't running very well at Royal Ascot, which might have been a factor, obviously, in Notable Speech. But the more you look at that Guineas, Rosalien was probably not very well placed from a tactical perspective. Notable Speech was definitely helped by being way out at the back in the early part of that race, and his run was the last and obviously the most potent. I think Rosalien has done extremely well subsequently, as we'll find out.
Yeah, he has. He won at Royal Ascot. But before that, he just went over to Ireland and bagged the classic as well. The Irish 2000 Guineas, chiefly at the expense of stablemate Hartem, John.
Yeah, this is an interesting race as well because it was slightly differently run to the Newmarket equivalent. So there was nowhere near the kind of early gallop that was on show at HQ. And Rosalien, in a race where they were quickening at the head of affairs instead of slowing up, has still had the turn of foot to reel them all in. Hartem has advertised the form very well subsequently. And Rosalien, he's just the type of horse, Graham, he can plonk anywhere in a race and he'll find a way of running well.
He is, but he's priced like a dominant horse, John. He's priced like a horse who's got a length or two in hand. And he doesn't have a length or two in hand because he's all out to win the Irish Guineas, and he was all out to beat Henry Longfellow in the St James's Palace at Royal Ascot.
So Aidan O'Brien has won this with the likes of Henry the Navigator, Rip Van Winkle, Rock and Gibraltar, more recently Paddington last year. How big a player is Henry Longfellow now, do you think?
He's a massive danger to all, and I think it's really intriguing. Mountain Bear, River Tiber were both engaged at the 5-day stage for Aidan O'Brien. They don't run because they don't want genuine pace in this race. They want Ryan Moore to be able to dictate. This is his Group 1 day. The horse he beats, Islands in the Stream, that is what we are, is now Stunning Peach, and he's made a very good start to his Hong Kong career. He's dominant in a race that he was entitled to win. He got stuck in the Paris traffic in the French Guineas, but he was really good. Just worn down late by Rosalien. There's not much between them on the Ascot form. There's plenty between them in the market. Henry Longfellow, a big runner for me.
Yeah, he's certainly got to go with the numbers. Yeah, you can completely discount the run in France. That wasn't his running at all. He was wide and then back. So, yeah, he's a very, very good horse, as Ascot showed.
They are your 3-year-olds. Very good horses, of course. There are older horses in there. There's an international horse as well. Factor Cheval, we can have a look at winning the small matter of the Dubai Turf earlier this year. It's a hot running of the race. He's a very good horse, Factor Cheval. We've seen that in Britain already.
Yeah, he gave up the 3 wide channel to no one the whole way around here, so he's covered plenty of ground to win this, win it pretty easily. Of course, second in this race last year, obviously on pretty soft ground, but it's a race where there's be a lot of attention on the 3-year-olds, Graham, rightly so, but if this fella brings his A game, he'll give them all something to think about.
I agree. Horses he beat here are really, really good international horses, and they've franked the form since. Completely chuck out his Queen Anne performance. Maxime Guillon chose to follow Christophe Soumillon up the middle on Big Rock, and it all went badly for both those horses. Judge him on Dubai, judge him on last year, and he comes firmly into the place mix. The problem is he's got to give the weight for age to some cracking 3-year-olds.
The horse actually came 7th that day, won a Group 1 in Germany just the other day. He's good form. Right, it's the race of the day, it's the race of the week, I'm sure. Who wins it?
Yeah, this race has been known as the Duel on the Downs for 13 years. Since Frankel sent Canford Cliffs spinning into retirement. It's not unusual for the Duel to go in a different way than it went at Royal Ascot. I'm looking at Toronado, I'm looking at the Gurkha, I'm looking at Too Darn Hot, who all reversed Ascot form with the winner on that day. I think Henry Longfellow, given the right tactical ride, pretty confident he'll lead here. If he kicks at the right moment, Rosalien might just have too much acceleration, but I think it'll be a hell of a race. Henry Longfellow, Rosalien, Factor Cheval, Notable Speech, 4-6-1-5. for a sensational Sussex.
Yeah, it's going to be a great race. Obviously, the tactical dimension as well just adds to the intrigue. I'm going to go with Rosalien on top, though. Just like I said before, he's shown a lethal turn of foot, regardless of how races are run. So we go on top for me marginally. Factor Cheval at the moment is far too big in the UK markets. That might change as far as the World Pool is concerned a little bit later on. Henry Longfellow will be pretty prominent in the run, as Graham was saying, and he might be difficult to pass if it really does turn into a sprint. A notable speech has to go in there, but it's a fascinating race.
It is. The international market, Britain market, Rosalien is short, but he's rated 122. Notable speech is 122. Henry Longfellow, 121. There's not much between them. And I'm going to give him a bye for last time. Notable speech. I'm going to have to prove what he can do and take a chance that the Guineas winner can win the Sussex Stakes. It is a number 5 notable speech for me to win the race of the week. Next race is the 5th race on the card. It's going to be run at 4:10 domestically. It's a fillies handicap over 2,000 metres, 12 declared. There's your course map. Let's have a look at the list of runners, headed up by Roger Varian's Imperial Quarter. There's the Door, who's won here before. Go down further, you're going to find Mysterious Love, Whisper, Roaring Success, Elladonna, who's having a good time of things, Water Jamila, True Wisdom, Candle of Dubai. I mentioned, Graham, Elladonna's having a good time of things. Could that continue come Wednesday?
Like this race, like the shape of it, like this filly. Hood has been a key to her improvement. Keep an eye on Roaring Success, who runs really well for a place, pretty consistent filly overall. But Elladonna with the Hood, with Ross Coakley on board on this day, she comes there travelling really well. And I think she decides, John, that she has enough done when she hits the front. She just tends to drift a little to the right, but she's quite nicely on top. If I was connected with that filly and saw that the handicapper had only put her up £3 for this, I would be highly, highly delighted. Major player, I think.
Yeah, it's going to be tough for Roaring Success to overturn that form. I think Roaring Success will run well, but Elladonna travelled beautifully through that race, and yes, she definitely goes in the numbers for me.
Power of Destiny, she runs the King Power Silks. We can see her last time out. This was a good run in the context of who she was up against, wasn't it?
Absolutely was, yeah. I mean, tempting to think, 4-runner race, bit of an egg and spoon contest at Nottingham, but this certainly wasn't. The good time figures that the front two have run here, miles clear of the rest as well. She's only had 3 starts. She ran well in the good maiden race at Haydock as well the time before that. Again, a decent time figure. At the moment, she looks like she could potentially be a very well handicapped horse.
I agree. You're giving, I think she's trying to give £7 to this really well-bred Godolphin horse, Blessed Honour, and going down fighting, I think she enhanced her reputation. But I see the stars, only had 3 runs, and connections are reaching for the heavy mob on the jockeys in terms of Elladonna, Ryan Moore for the first time, and this Power of Destiny. I think it's a Sheen Murphy for the first time.
So, all things considered, who are you going for?
I'm going for Elladonna. I'm fearful of Power of Destiny here, but I think these are absolutely the 2 key fillies. Elladonna on top, pretty sure, pretty confident she's still well handicapped from a £3 higher mark. 9 Power of Destiny, 7 Roaring Success, bar a blip at Royal Ascot where she reared at the start, she's been consistent, and 6, an older horse in Whisper, 8, 9, 7, 6, and I'll be really disappointed if we haven't got the Quinella here.
Yeah, we've got the trio, same trio, slightly different order, but I'm going to go with Power of Destiny on top to just get the better of Elladonna, but they've both got very good chances. There's the Door, is a previous glorious Goodwood winner.
Yep.
Run style for this race, the way it's shaping up doesn't look ideal, but could still go quite nicely, and Roaring Success in there for 4th, so 9, 8, 2 and 7.
There's Door, winner of this very race last year. Hopefully better weather this time around. I'm going to go for Whisper for trainer Marcus Tregonning, who would love a winner at Glorious Goodwood. Horse number 6, one of the elder brigades, who has got it in her locker to be a player. And I hope she can win come the 4:10 at Goodwood this Wednesday. Working our way towards the back end of the card at Goodwood, this big world pull down Wednesday. You've got the Alice Keppel Filly Conditions race as race 6. 5 furlongs, 1,000 metres. It's the straight track and trip that the Moulcombe is the same test for earlier on in the card. 2-year-old fillies, 12 declared. These are they. Big prize pot as well. This was won by, most famously a couple of years ago, the brilliant The Platinum Queen. Bailey's Jubilation heads them. Blue Zodiac. Cotta de Casa is going to be a big player, certainly according to the market. Storm Call, where's Claire Xanthe? Ziggy's Ariel. Let's have a look at one who probably has got a little unnoticed as regards the international betting markets. Havana Gila's Success in mid-June, John, at York. This form's all right.
Yeah, I mean, it hasn't been necessarily franked by her, although she was beaten by Celandine, who we've talked about in dispatches for the Molecombe Stakes. Speed figure's all right for this horse, gate 10 as well. At the moment, she's rather overpriced, I think, in the UK markets. Obviously, plenty of time for that to correct by the time we get to Wednesday afternoon. Wouldn't totally rule out. She's not in the numbers. Wouldn't be surprised if she ran well.
She ran badly last time, and I'm not sure why. It wasn't the 6th furlong that beat her at Newmarket, but that form's not bad. And I agree, and she has the potential, if she's back on song, to sneak into the top 4, I think.
She's a huge price in the market, much shorter, Cotta de Casa. This was electric at Beverley last time, wasn't it?
This was good, soft ground, winnable race. She has a pretty big price tag, €270,000 by Sioux Nation, good sire. And she did what I think Connections expected. Connections were a bit concerned about the soft ground, John, but she bolted up. Prior to that, she'd made a really encouraging debut when third in a tight finish between Bailey's Jubilation and Lucky Gift at Lingfield. But she clearly came on for that, and she's going to be one of the prime players at Goodwood on Wednesday, I think.
Yep, she goes into my numbers as well. Interesting that the two runs, the third on the fast ground and this win, are actually pretty similar speed figures, so don't get too worried about the underhoof conditions for her.
We talked about a couple of them. Do they make up into your numbers? How many others are you factoring in?
I'm going with Royal Ascot form here. Richard Hannon's got Xanthi on deck. She won at Ascot first time, not by very far. She then went for the Queen Mary Stakes, much hotter race. She ran really well, 6th, showing good speed for a long way, so I like her profile for this race. Behind that, number 4, Coteau de Cazo, very impressive at Beverley. And then 7, Lucky Gift, a Godolphin filly, hasn't won a race in 3 goals, but she travels really well, and I do think she's quite useful. And 5, Havana Gila for 4th, but I'm quite keen on number 11, Xanthi here. And with Coteau de Cazo, we might just have the cue.
Yeah, recent runnings of this race suggest you don't want to be too far off the speed, the 5 furlongs there down the straight track at Goodwood. I'm going to go with Convo, though. He's quite exposed, but has 1 or 2 bits and pieces of form that could see her go pretty close here. She was far too close to the speed at Royal Ascot in Fairy Godmother's race, and then ran a pretty good race in France in a sort of muddling contest. This will suit her, and she's got a reasonable draw on gate 7. Kuwaitcha in there for 2nd. She's not out of it either. She's quite a big price, trained by Alice Haynes, ran well in the super sprint, and then we've got Xanthi in for 3rd for the reasons that Graham said. And Cotta de Casa could well get a nice run in transit again towards the head of affairs, which, as I say, historically is where you want to be.
Boys, I wish you luck. Number 4, Cotta de Casa, to follow up that emphatic win at Beverley for me, to win race 6 at Goodwood this Wednesday. Best of luck, whatever you're going for. Final race of the day is number 7, and it is the HKJC World Pool Handicap. 1,400 metres is the distance, and there is your course map. It's for 3-year-olds and upwards, 0 to 95 race. Let's have a look at the runners. Star of Orion we know loads about, but now represents a new trainer, Eve Johnson-Horton. Billy Joe runs very quickly after just the other day. Darkness is there, Mum's Tipple, Wob Wob Wob, the Terminator, a Yorkshire and Metaverse. That's just page 1. Keeps going. So Winston, Castle City Change for Good, Blueprints, Hieronymus, Misinformation, Racing Breaks Rider under Kieran Schumacher at the bottom. Let's have a look at Blueprints running 3rd to Kirat in a very valuable handicap here at the end of May, John.
Yeah, and this is possibly form that is going to be quite pertinent as far as this race is concerned. Look here, not getting a very good run at all. 1 or 2 blind alleys this horse ran down. Kirat didn't do a huge amount for the form in the Britannia Stakes, but I quite like this performance in the context of the fact that Blueprints has got gate 5 here. Big field, round a bend. I think a low number is definitely something you want to be prizing, and Blueprints has got a nice draw and should go pretty well.
We can have a look at Darkness as well. Darkness, who was back to the winner's enclosure for the first time in a year, winning at Newmarket at the end of June, and has since run a really good race in the Bunbury Cup.
Yeah, this horse would have been on top for me, but for the high draw, he's got the 18 box, which is potentially problematic. He ran really well in the Golden Mile from a high draw, offsetting the high draw with good early speed. And here, he stumbled a little bit in the dip, but he still ran well in the Bunbury Cup. His previous win at Newmarket was emphatic. He's right on his game, this horse, so I think he goes in the numbers. But there is a conundrum for the jockey from the way out West Gate.
Let's have a look at Misinformation. She's been winning her races, Chepstow and Epsom. This is going to be tougher. Is she up to it?
Well, it's going to be difficult for her from gate 19 as well. Had she drawn a better stall, I might have been a bit more enthusiastic, but she absolutely tanked through this race. I was calling here that night, and she could have been named the winner a very long way out. Sheen Murphy had a treble on the evening, and this was his easiest winner. Obviously, this was only a Class 4 race. She's got to step up quite a bit here. Gate 19 is going to be difficult, but she's progressive, and it wouldn't be a huge surprise if she ran well.
Yeah, she's won her last two. She didn't have a penalty here after winning in similar style at Chepstow, but the 19 box is a bit of a headache for a filly who's clearly in great form otherwise.
We can have a look, Graham, at the Turpinator winning at Pontefract at the end of June. This was 1,200 metres, but in truth, you look at all the previous winning form, it's been 1,400, so the extra distance shouldn't be an issue.
Yeah, he doesn't stand out as a super, progressive horse. He's won 6 times from 30 goals. Ran okay at York, then went to Pontefract at 6 furlongs, a really stiff 6 furlongs, and he won pretty emphatically. The handicapper has put him up £6. Horse who's banging form could and should run his race, but I'm not quite sure he's ahead of the game after that £6 rise, John.
Yeah, it was a good effort here, but this is going to be a slightly tougher task. And gate 9, not terrible, but it's not absolutely ideal, so it doesn't quite go in. But again, he could run well.
There we go then. They're your runners, or a look at them, for the 7th and final race at Goodwood on Wednesday. All that's left to do is give us your 1, 2, 3, 4 in what looks a trappy finale.
Yeah, it's really tough. But why are we forgetting about Billy Joe? He didn't run his very best race when favourite for a big race at Ascot at the weekend, but he didn't run badly, only beaten around 3 lengths. And 3, 4, 5 races prior to that, all of those efforts give him a real good chance here. So I'm going to go with Billy Joe on top from 14. Sandcastle City, who's just been in really good form recently. 5 Darkness and 10 Metaverse. But number 2, Billy Joe. Let's not forget about him, John. Have you forgotten?
Well, yes, thanks for reminding me of that, Graham. Yeah, I had him on top in that race at Ascot. Well, another old mate, Northern Express one, but there we go. Graham, proud Lancastrian sitting next to me. I'm going to go with Yorkshire, though, on top. Ooh. He could be seen in that the Bunbury Cup run when we showed that piece of VT. He was knocked around at the start that day. He was never really in contention. This is a drop in class. He has got quite good gate speed when he chooses to use it. He's got stall 1 here, which is perfect. Blue Prince will go well. Sandcastle City's got a good draw. Spencer aboard. I want him to go forward, not take the horse back. And Star of Orion's got some decent Goodwood form in there as well, and is also well drawn. Inside drawn horses there in a confusing race or a difficult race, often the best way to go. OK, it's the local horse, number 10, Metaverse for me. Gentlemen, thank you very much indeed once again. Graham, John, who I'm sure have tipped up any number of winners by the time you've watched this 7th and final race preview. Enjoy Goodwood Day 2, which is a big World Pool day. It should be a cracker, and best of luck whatever you're punting.